On the buck stops here this evening, our big debate tonight after the big Kashmir meeting that went on for more than 5 hours. There wasn't consensus on too much except to agree that an all-party delegation needed to visit the valley. Why didn't this meeting take place earlier? Also on a day when the Prime Minister makes another appeal for dialogue with all groups as long as they are willing to stay away from the path of violence. We ask, is the approach of politicians to Kashmir finally moving beyond words, or is this far too little, too late? That's our big debate tonight. You can take part in our debate online. Our webpage is now open for your comments and your votes. Our webpage, ndtv.com/buckstops here, so you can get on to your computers right away. You can also tweet me. We'll run your tweets through the length of this program. My Twitter handle, like every night, is @Pida. Under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister, political representatives from all major parties, national and regional, met today to discuss the 3-month-long crisis in Jammu and Kashmir. Omar Abdullah, one of the players at the centre of the storm, was not there, but his party led a delegation under the chairmanship of Farooq Abdullah. His arch political rival Mehbooba Mufti also attended the meeting. At the end of a marathon session, there wasn't too much of a dramatic breakthrough, but there was an agreement that an all-party delegation will now be headed to the valley. What was interesting, however, were comments made by the Prime Minister and the Congress President. The Prime Minister said the government was ready to talk to all groups as long as they were willing to take a firm stand against violence. And Sonia Gandhi seemed to go even further when she said it was necessary for all Indians to ask ourselves, why are the people of Kashmir so angry?
On the empty streets of Srinagar, curfew and stillness. Broken only by some street protests. And in Delhi, finally long overdue national attention on the burning valley. 3 months and 88 civilian deaths later, an all-party meeting that began with the Prime Minister setting a new framework for a peace initiative. A fresh offer for dialogue with all groups who do not espouse violence. But an instruction to the state government to first restore public order and create an environment suitable for dialogue.
I was shocked and distressed to see young men and women, even children, joining the protests on the streets. While some of these protests may have been impulsive or spontaneous, it cannot be denied that some incidents were orchestrated by certain groups.
The marathon meeting, attended by 38 representatives from various parties, national and regional, went on for more than 5 hours. Differences on key issues, such as the proposed amendment and partial withdrawal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, persisted, with the BJP targeting Omar Abdullah's government.
The most incompetent administrative handling of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, Omar Abdullah cannot escape the blame.
But perhaps it was Sonia Gandhi's speech that marked the real paradigm shift in the UPA's political approach. She asked the fundamental question: why are these young men, women and children out on the streets? Asking that their legitimate aspirations be respected and understood, and the pain be confronted and engaged with. Absent at the meeting was the man at the center of the storm, Omar Abdullah. But emerging to a jostle of television cameras, in the midst of persistent rumors that an upset Omar had considered resigning after Delhi gave his government the tag of governance deficit.
Very clearly by what Omar's government has done. It was praised by the Prime Minister. It was praised by the Commission. Planning Commission. No, there is no deficit. There is no deficit. Armed Forces Special Power Act.
What couldn't have made the National Conference happy was the presence of arch-rival Mehbooba Mufti, who was here at the personal request of Sonia Gandhi.
Let there be an unconditional dialogue from both the sides. Not only from the Prime Minister's side, I would also say from the separatist side. I would definitely want the prisoners to be released. I would definitely want crackdowns to be stopped. But let the other conditions be a part of that political process.
At the end of the day, despite their differences, this motley crew of politicians will now travel to Srinagar for a first-hand sense of what has made the valley erupt and why. A closer understanding perhaps than the one the distance from Delhi has provided. And to borrow from Sonia Gandhi's statement, will politics finally move beyond words?
So are we seeing a paradigm shift? Are we seeing a willingness to be imaginative and innovative about Jammu and Kashmir? Are we finally understanding the urgency of the crisis? Well, earlier today, I spoke to somebody who stayed away from the last all-party meeting. Our newsmaker tonight, Mehbooba Mufti. Well, there will be an all-party delegation headed to the Kashmir Valley for an on-the-spot assessment, and their inputs will now form the basis of what the Home Minister has described as the government's evolving Kashmir policy. Joining us now is somebody who has participated in the official deliberations for the first time since this crisis erupted, Mehbooba Mufti of the PDP, who did not actually attend the last all-party meeting, but this time received a call from the Congress President Sonia Gandhi. Mehbooba ji, your first assessment of this marathon meeting, it went on for more than 5 hours. Everybody said their piece. Do you believe that this has at all taken the situation to a better level than what it has been for the last 3 months?
Well, Barkha, though I think it's been delayed, but it's just a beginning, and we have been able to put forward the real situation that's on the ground before so many political parties, and I think many of them don't have the real feel what is off the ground, what is happening in Kashmir. And sending a delegation is also, I think, something that is very much needed, because unless and until people here, especially the polity, they don't know what is the real situation on ground in Kashmir, they will not be able to kind of make any kind of consensus over how to move forward in Kashmir. So I think it's a beginning, though very late, but at least a beginning.
Now, Mehbooba Mufti, we saw a very interesting, in my view, and a different sort of statement from the comments made by Sonia Gandhi today, who actually spoke about the need to understand the pain and the anger of the Kashmiri youth and the need to confront that pain and anger. And she also spoke about the legitimate aspirations of the young people. Are you sensing finally a greater understanding in New Delhi of what's going on the ground?
Well, I think it was what Mrs. Gandhi said, I think it was something that we could feel that she is trying to reach out as a woman, because women are more emotional, and I mean, just imagine an 8-year-old being beaten to death and his still half-finished toffee in his mouth. So we have seen such incidents, and such incidents definitely need, some kind of compassion from the country all over, not only from Mrs. Gandhi, but all over the country. So I think whatever she said, it was, something from the heart, and, though again I would say it was a delayed thing, but at least, something was said about it.
But Mehbooba, both the Prime Minister and the Congress President, as well as national parties like the BJP, are asking for the violence to stop. The Prime Minister, in fact, seems to be creating a new template, because today he said that the government is ready for dialogue with all groups that do not espouse violence. That's the only condition he actually laid in that statement. So will parties like yourself now appeal for the street violence to stop? We saw the valley erupt on Eid. We saw violence, sectarian violence, even over the reports of the Quran being desecrated. Will you now step in and play a more active role in appealing for the violence to stop so that a dialogue process can begin?
Well, Barkha, I don't know why you people make it so simple that as if Mehbooba Mufti makes an appeal and everything is going to be fine. But why do you forget that, the violence that the National Conference or the state government claims after the Eid, which they relate that it was connected with the Holy Quran. And I don't think any part of the country, when there is any kind of protest regarding, hurting of religious sentiments, you kill 21 people. You don't kill them. So the state government is dealing with the protesters with the same rod, with the same gun. There is no difference how to deal with the protesters who are, protesting on one thing or the other thing. Today you had I think some people killed in Punch, and just now there has been firing in Sopor. So it is not stopping. It is for the state government to see how they can stop, firing on their own people. And nothing is really happening on that front.
But Syed Ali Shah Gilani also made an appeal earlier for the protests to be non-violent. Would you at least concede that when there is arson on the streets, when police posts are burnt, for example, when cars are set ablaze, and I'm not at all justifying the civilian killings, 86 people are dead, and that is unforgivable. But at the same time, I'm asking you as a responsible political leader of the valley, should arson, should violence off the street also not be condemned?
Yeah, definitely, why not? But we need to understand these are the very people. 1.5 years back, they were there, they were with us, they were with National Conference, with Congress. Who has pushed them to the wall? Something is missing, something has gone wrong. I mean, if Mehbooba Mufti has to start early in the morning so that, she doesn't have to face people to reach airport. If the state government, they have to take a chopper to reach the airport, we are not able to face the people. That is somewhere, we people. State government, we politicians, and the politicians at the central level, we have failed our people. So we just can't tell them, oh, everything is going to be fine, we appeal you, just because we are not doing anything. We are not even released the boys who are behind the bars, and to top it all, every night there are crackdowns. We are taking new prisoners. I mean, if Gilani Saab gives a call for strike, it is implemented by the state government with the most inhuman restrictions. You just can't imagine how the people are living. Who are dead, they are dead. But who are living, they are living in hell.
Give us a sense of how volatile these 5 hours were. Were people frank? There are many different opinions. There's the BJP with a much more nationalist prism. There is the Congress that has many different shades of opinion within the Congress. There's your position. Did you feel at the end of the 5 hours that there was any unity on any issue at all?
Well, I would say that, I was pleasantly surprised because I did not find so much of, aggression, which we expected usually. Yes, there were, some kind of different opinions regarding ESPA and other things. But overall, I think everybody was concerned about the situation on the ground, and that's why they want to visit Kashmir and find out for themselves what is really, going wrong and how they can correct it. But I think it was a opportunity for people like me to find all the cream of our country there and try to, reach out to them and appeal to them that we need we need to look at Kashmir through compassion rather than, as a territorial issue.
Do you believe that this all-party delegation should meet with the separatists when they go, and will you be making an appeal to the boys on the streets who are protesting, who are throwing stones, to meet with this all-party delegation?
Well, see, when the all-party delegation goes there, I think they need to meet everybody. They need to meet everybody because they have already met us, the mainstream parties. They need to meet all these young boys who are angry, and if in any case we can help in that, why not? We would like to do that. But I don't know whether anybody is going to listen to us at this point of time with people getting killed right and left.
One last question on the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. It seems to have become the center stage of attention and national debate, with opinions so strongly divided and the 3 service chiefs going on record to say this is not the time. Mehbooba Mufti, given how volatile the situation is on the ground and given that the recent clashes have not in fact involved the army, they've involved the JK police and the paramilitary, do you believe now is the time to either partially lift or amend the Armed Forces Special Powers Act?
Well, Barkha, if you recall, we had started this in 2007 when situation was much better, things were improving, and it should have been a very natural consequences of, the situation, improvement in the situation in 2008, 60% people voting. So it should have, happened naturally. But the way the state government is trying to project the cosmetic changes in the ESPA as a resolution to the whole problem, as if everything is going to fine, I don't believe that. We have to revoke ESPA in totality, not, a cosmetic thing. But if we think that it is going to help the situation, everything is going to be fine, I don't believe it. Because it can be a part of a process, but not a process in totality.
All right, one last question. You decided to attend this all-party meeting. You stayed away from the earlier one. Many believe it's because of Sonia Gandhi's intervention. Can you share with us the details of that phone call and what made you change your mind?
Well, let me make it very clear. Sonia ji did not call me for this meeting. It was Mr. Bansal. the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, who called me. And since we had been from the very beginning demanding some kind of initiative at the Prime Minister level, which can take certain decisions and be seen as a serious initiative on the ground. So that's why we came, and because we would always want to be a part of some kind of, solution, contribute positively to something, not a facade. I mean, you had a meeting in Srinagar, all-party meet 2 months back. What was achieved there? Nothing really. So we want to be a part of a very serious discussion, deliberation, but not something just for the heck of or the photo opportunity.
But has the Congress and the centre been reaching out to you and your father, Mufti Mohammed Saeed, for your inputs in this current crisis?
Well, I think our inputs have been very clear from the very beginning. Even before this thing happened, when my father met the Prime Minister before his June visit to Srinagar, I mean, he told him everything about the situation, the alienation, how things were heating up, what was happening. Even when I got a chance to meet the Prime Minister or the Home Minister, I also tried to tell him everything, what was really happening on the ground. But unfortunately, at that point of time, it was seen as if, because we were in the opposition, so we were trying to, kind of make stories. But now, unfortunately, whatever we said for the last 1.5 years, everything is coming true, which is very unfortunate.
Well, Mehbooba Mufti, as you said, it's a delayed but small beginning. Thank you so much for talking to us. And Mehbooba Mufti says she does not want to be part of a photo opportunity. So was today's all-party meeting more than a photo opportunity? Or is it far too little, far too late? Let's get straight into our debate this evening. Let me start with Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, to many people who have been observing Kashmir for a long time, including myself, one of the things that leapt out of the comments made today was the Congress President's comments, wherein she spoke about addressing what she called the legitimate aspirations of the young people of the Kashmir Valley. But she did not elaborate what the understanding is within the government of what legitimate aspirations are. Now, as you know, there are people on the street speaking out against injustice, but there are also people out on the street talking about azadi. What for the Congress is a legitimate aspiration?
Barkha, first of all, the very fact that the essence of this whole move is a dialogue shows that it is the legitimate aspirations which we are trying to reach through dialogue. Secondly, in complex issues like Kashmir, which is an extremely sensitive, delicate matter, I think to announce the details of a decision before the decision is reached, whether that is done by the Congress President on camera in a meeting or by me in a television interview, is counterproductive. This has to be a part of the process. We can't give you the details now.
I'm not asking you for a decision. I'm merely asking you to explain to people what does, because I found it a very, very interesting and important phrase. What does it mean though?
No, yes. Yeah, let me try to be as specific as possible within the confines of what I said. What it means is that there is definitely a awareness at all levels, especially the centre, that there is a sense of heightened alienation. Now, that heightened alienation has to be met by a complex combination of things, not one thing. One thing could be the army presence in a particular manner, particular degree. But that's only one small part of the story. It could be employment issues. It could be the sensitivity attached to very young children or boys dying, accidentally, inadvertently or otherwise. It could be the package which is being given to be molded in a different way. All this falls in that matrix, in that hodgepodge. So it is wrong to think of it as a unifocal point.
I couldn't agree with you more, but then may I just ask you before I go on to my other panelists, does it take 3 months and 85 people to die for the government to convene an all-party meeting?
I think that's an unfair comment, Barkha.
It's a question.
I think
it's not a comment, it's a question.
I'm saying it's an unfair question as well, but I'll answer it. There is every attempt being made for the last 3 months, and you can see the calibrated manner in which we are moving. It was so easy to announce one thing. The very fact that we're not doing it, we are trying to find the real reason. Now it was felt that there were so many differences that we must try to generate a consensus. Now it's taking time. The press is saying every day there should be a deadline, there should be a decision, there should be a clarity. But the whole time is being taken only because the object is to get as much consensus as possible, even at the cost of time. So the best possible decision comes out.
Okay,
I think it's a calibrated, a very sensitive exercise of good governance.
Abhishek, may I ask you very quickly before I move on to the national conference? Your government has spoken about a governance deficit within the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But Farooq Abdullah emerged from the meeting today saying there is no such thing. Is it that the Congress is saying one thing in public and conveying something differently to its alliance partner in the valley?
No, I think there are large areas where we agree to disagree. There is certainly no congruence in the view of the Congress and every issue with that of the National Conference or with their leaders. We do believe that there are areas where governance, trust, connectivity, reaching out with the people is in deficit. That is equally not to say that the baby must be thrown out with the bathwater and that the administration there is hopeless.
Okay.
I think this is the whole problem. Black and white doesn't work. There are areas of grey.
Absolutely, and shades of grey is often what is missing from all Kashmir debates. Ravi Shankar Prasad, the BJP is sometimes accused of taking an extreme position on Kashmir, forgetting again and again that some of the most liberal initiatives within Kashmir and with Pakistan came when the BJP was in power.
Barkha, first of all, I see your point, what you made. This all-party meeting could have been called earlier. Our view articulated is very clear. When you talk of Jammu and Kashmir, it also includes Ladakh and Jammu, whose wishes are equally important. Dialogue must be held within the confines of Indian Constitution, and nothing should be done which embarrasses the army or lowers its morale. They are fighting a big battle in view of cross-border terrorism from across the borders of Pakistan, which we cannot deny. But Barkha, hearing Mahbooba Mufti speak today, I was quite assured, and I must appreciate her frank introspection. And that's where I would like to make my comment in this way. Why is it that in 2003 and 2008 elections, which were indeed fair, where Mufti Sahab won handsomely, even Mahbooba was elected, this time Omar was elected, where 3-4 months ago 7 lakh tourists visited, where 50,000 Kashmiri Pandits visited Kheer Bhavani temple, suddenly the political leaders is squandered away their space in favor of Hurriyat and separatist. What is the political legitimacy of Mr. Gilani? Has he won any election? Sajjad Loan lost the elections. Now why should not we believe that there is an orchestrated campaign from across the border by their handlers with the patronage of ISI?
Ravi,
Ravi
Shankar Prasad, everything
let me complete. No, please, just Barkha, you said you are taking a hard position. Allow me to reply, please.
Okay.
I know your views on Kashmir. At least let the BJP view go on your channel at least.
I don't think you know my views on Kashmir, but go ahead anyway. Go ahead.
Barkha, as far as our assessment is concerned, Pakistan-sponsored intifada of whose Gilani is a face is being encouraged to force a fait accompli in view of the impending visit of Barack Obama. Unless we are able to understand, therefore, first embarrass Government of India, completely decimate the political process, whether of Mufti or of Omar or Farooq, embarrass the army, talk of autonomy, go for Azadi, which was evident on the pious day of Eid. Mr. in the mob, or Mr. Mirwais was leading the procession, which set fire to so many government offices and Pakistan flags were hoisted.
May I get a question in?
And if you want to know the clear view of BJP, it is not 1953, it is 2010.
Okay.
Kashmir is a part of India.
Okay, I have a question, but I can hear Abhishek trying to make a point. Yeah, Ravi, give me a second. Abhishek, Ravi, you've made your point. You've made your point now. You believe all of this is to do with Pakistan. Abhishek, the Prime Minister's own assessment was some of it is orchestrated by certain groups. He doesn't elaborate on which groups, but some of it is spontaneous and impulsive. You yourself and your Congress President has used the word heightened alienation. Are we seeing here a complete divergence between the two national parties on what we are dealing with? If we can't agree on what we are dealing with, what hope is there of finding a solution?
Well, certainly there is a divergence, and you've just seen an example of that. I think it is oversimplistic. It may even amount to tilting at windmills if we start making such comments even before the negotiated process starts, the dialogue starts. It is not possible to have any movement forward if before the movement begins, one party says, yes, we are for dialogue, But this is our stand. We will not look at anything else. We will not do any give and take. It's no point making jingoistic, nationalistic statements because nobody least of this government is thinking of... One second, let me complete. I didn't interrupt you. 1 minute. I didn't interrupt you. It is in nobody's case, it is nobody's intent that we are negotiating beyond the parameters of the Indian Constitution. But before you go into talks, if you start doing a blame game, it doesn't work. I think absolutely correct. There are large parts of both. There are, of course, parts of orchestrated, both cross-border and orchestrated within the Kashmir problems. Created, imaginary, not real. But there is equally heightened alienation. And we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater by making jingoistic statements.
Ravi, I am only going to ask you...
It doesn't amount to tilting at windmills.
Ravi, are you tilting at windmills by ignoring the fact and ignoring something? And I quote somebody the BJP respects. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's legacy on Kashmir. I was standing in the Maidan of Srinagar the day Mr. Vajpayee spoke about talks within the ambit of humanity. Insaniyat ke daire mein jo kuch mumkin hai, wo hona chahiye. Ravi, I asked you before I go to Mirwais Omar Farooq, who's on the line, since you did raise questions about him not distancing himself from the violence that took place on Eid. Is the BJP saying there is no genuine alienation? That all we are dealing with in the valley is terrorism imported from Pakistan?
Barkha, in the meeting today, that was the last point I was going to make when you interrupted, and Abhishek showered all the political abuses on me. But anyway, that's his prerogative. I don't want to join a match with him. Mr. Nitin Gadkari today clearly said, we are joining in the appeal for peace. If the government takes a step for dialogue, the violence must cease. The BJP is willing to give a constructive cooperation. That was also the point made today. As far as Mr. Vajpayee's statement is concerned, yes, इंसानियत के दायरे में बातचीत होगी, हिंदुस्तान के संविधान के दायरे में बातचीत होगी. But he never let his guard down as far as the fight against terrorism is concerned. And so much so that he forced Mr. Musharraf to acknowledge that he would not sponsor any terrorism against India from Pakistani soil.
All right.
January 4, 2004.
I think both are
Therefore, these twin strategies are important.
Okay, you've made your point. I think both the national parties have made their point. Let's hear from the Kashmiri voices now. We have with us Mirwais Omar Farooq. The BJP has raised questions about the separatists not taking a strong enough position on the violence. Mirwais Omar Farooq, if we can try for a moment to focus on the positive, to focus on the fact that the Prime Minister has said, and I've been counting now for the third time in about 2 weeks, that the government is ready to talk to all groups, provided they distance themselves from violence. The Congress President has spoken about looking at the legitimate aspirations of the Kashmiri people. And the BJP is also saying that if violence is abandoned, the government should talk and the BJP would support that initiative. My simple question to you, when this all-party delegation comes to the state, will you be willing to meet them if they should reach out to you?
Well, Barkha, give me some time to explain my point. You are talking about violence. What violence are you talking about? The fact is that there is structured violence from the state against the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I mean, we have lost 85, 90 people in the last 3 months, and you are saying that people won't even come to the streets and protest. Violence is a reaction to the suppression of the demands of the people. For God's sake, acknowledge the fact that we are on the receiving end. People are being killed, are being butchered. They are being fired upon indiscriminately by the security agencies. And as far as you're talking about, the onus for creating an atmosphere, we believe, as far as the onus for creating an atmosphere for dialogue rests with India. India has to decide. They are killing people in Kashmir. And you are saying that it's the Hurriyat who is perpetrating the violence. I mean, there is relentless curfew. Children have no milk, no medicine. What kind of a state and media is this? Don't you have any moral outrage against these brutal methods? We are simply saying, you are talking about the Prime Minister's initiative. The fact is that, whenever Prime Minister has spoken about Kashmir in the past 3 weeks, he has always put the rider of Constitution. You rightly said, you put the question when Mr. Vajpayee made it, a gesture for peace, and he said that we want to reach out to the people of Kashmir. And when Hurriyat responded, he said that we are willing to talk under the garb of insaniyat. It was an unconditional dialogue with Kashmiris, with Pakistan. We were even allowed to go to Pakistan as a part of an overall agreement that India, Pakistan, and the Kashmir should all engage in a process.
I remember that. I was in Pakistan when you actually went there covering that story. But Mirwais Amar Farooq, I will put your point to Ravi Shankar Prasad, but I have a question of my own. I take your point about the fact that 85 civilians have died. I take your point about human rights violations. But may I ask you, Mirwais Amar Farooq, that on Eid, when you and Yasin Malik led a rally to the heart of Srinagar, and we saw arson on the street, and I am not drawing an equivalence between the burning of buildings and the deaths of civilians, of children, of teenagers. So please, I'm qualifying that. Do you not believe, Mirwais Amar Farooq, that it reflected that what's happening on the ground, nobody has control of the situation on the street, not even the Hurriyats today? And do you not believe that you need to meet the government's initiative halfway, condemn this violence and participate in this olive branch that is being offered?
I mean, Barkha, for God's sake, I mean, it's very sad that at times the Indian media is giving a lopsided approach towards reporting from Kashmir. The fact is that, the massive referendum which was registered by the people of Kashmir at Lal Chowk cannot be dimmed by an aberration of burning one building. I mean, you can see, you saw one building burning, you did not report that hundreds and thousands of people have peacefully come from Eidgah to Lal Chowk. We passed bunkers, we passed military establishments, we passed so many government buildings. Not one stone was thrown on any of the bunkers or on the police, posts. So I think, it's an attempt at camouflaging the real issue. We have condemned violence. We have condemned the fact that whether it's Mr. Gilani or whether it's me or whether it's Yasin, everybody has been focusing on the fact that our strength lies in peaceful protest. We have been asking people to protest peacefully. But for God's sake, the fact is that there is no room for peaceful protest. I mean, you have confined the people of Kashmir. Kashmir has been turned into a virtual jail, and then you are telling us that after this today's all-party meet, we are very sorry to say that today's meet. If you look at today's meet, what was it? What was the outcome of today's meet?
Okay, let me put that to the politicians. I'll come back to you, Mirwais Amar Farooq, but Mehboob Beg hasn't spoken yet. Mehboob Beg, the national conference is at the center of attention, and you heard Abhishek Singhvi going on record on this program to say that there is now a clear, visible public disagreement between the reading of the Congress of how the state government has performed, and by the way, the Congress is a member of that coalition, and the national conference wherein Farooq Abdullah came out and said there is no governance deficit. Are you disappointed, Mehboob Beg, from the fact that the Congress at the center has in a sense judged the performance of your government and held you partly responsible for the crisis of the last 3 months?
Barkha, now give me a second and hear me for some time. Give me some time, please. There are two things involved here. If we are talking about the government performance, I will only quote Prime Minister when he came to Kashmir only 2 months back, and the way Umar Abdullah projected the problems of Jammu and Kashmir to him, he said he is not only the youngest but the most impressive chief minister in the country. So most impressive chief minister cannot become like governance deficit within a month or two. Having said that, when you talk to Mirwais Amar Farooq or you talk to BJP, these are two extremes, and truth lies somewhere in the middle. Everybody knows, the entire world knows, the entire country knows, the basis of accession were autonomy. I don't know, BJP knows it fully well. Autonomy, and this relationship was negotiated, and we had come to an agreement, and the agreement was that basis of the accession is fully autonomous Jammu and Kashmir state. We are not asking for moons, we are asking for the restoration of that autonomy. Now look here, what has happened? If in normal course of things, when it was official that militancy graph has come down, in natural course of things, disturbed area should have been abandoned. It should have been dropped, and with that this Armed Force Special Powers Act would have gone. But this didn't happen.
Yes.
Now,
And you have given me the cue to touch upon that next layer. The National Conference has made it clear that they believe that at the very least the Armed Forces Special Powers Act can be partially lifted, that the Disturbed Areas Act does not have to be applied, for example, to a city like Srinagar. Before I come back to our politicians, General Raghavan, listening...
just a minute,
yeah,
just a minute.
Okay, complete your point.
Just a minute.
Okay, complete your point.
Just a minute, please.
Okay.
Now look here, what happens is, you talk about diluting Armed Force Special Powers Act. Now what are you doing? It's not even the first CBM. You have to take so many confidence building measures in order to create an atmosphere where very productive talks can start. You are stuck at first CBM, and you are talking about dilution, amending that, and from where? From an area which is not like army is not handling the situation. You are talking about...
I've got your point.
Yes,
let me get the military perspective. And General Raghavan, listening very patiently through the very volatile emotions that Kashmir always evokes. You were a member of the Jeevan Reddy committee that actually looked at this whole act. Sir, is there a misnomer in making the Armed Forces Special Powers Act so much the center of this debate? Because what we've seen in the last 3 months actually doesn't involve the army. It involves the Jammu and Kashmir police, it involves the paramilitary forces. And nobody's talking about what cover they may need to operate under. But do you believe that this is a draconian law and the time for it to be buried has come? Or do you believe, like the 3 service chiefs, that to do away with this at this time is to weaken the security establishment?
Well, even Tada and Bhota were called draconian, so it's a matter of interpretation. But the point is that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is applied and promulgated after the Disturbed Area Act is announced in extreme circumstances. The problem in India and also in J&K as well as elsewhere is that it has continued to be promulgated and applied almost endlessly. It should be applied in extreme circumstances and removed.
And are we in that extreme circumstance today in the valley?
I think that extreme circumstance continues. All that we see on the screen and that we see on the streets of Kashmir, even today for that matter, is an extreme situation. But it is not for the army to question the political leadership's judgment that a situation has reached a level of normalcy where the army can be pulled out and the Armed Forces Special Powers Act can be undone. The argument is that you should not use such measures like the Armed Forces Special Powers as an instrument, as a bargaining point for people to come and join negotiations. That we will stop the violence or we will join the negotiations if you remove the act. That cannot be the way any state behaves.
So you're saying separate the merits of the act from confusing it with a political CBM.
Right. It's a political choice. It's a political call. If the leadership decides that it should be removed, the army will say, if you do so, we will abide by that. But these will be the consequences. And the consequences are that within months or within weeks, that area will be taken over by the militant groups. Normalcy would disappear. And the political leadership would ask the army to go in again. To go in and again and come out again is not the best way to handle this issue. The best way to handle is to wait and see how long it takes. The question being raised today by all people, except one, is that it should have been removed as soon as normalcy arrived. Who is to judge how long this normalcy will last? Will it be a lasting arrangement? Are the fundamentals of the situation...
So you're questioning and you're concerned about the timing and the circumstances in which this is being reviewed. We are going to take a quick break. On the other side, we will ask all our panelists, when this all-party delegation heads to the valley, what is it hoping to achieve? Is it going to go beyond talking to the converted? Is it going to reach out to the boys throwing stones on the streets? And will Mirwais Omar Farooq agree to meet the delegation? He didn't answer that. We'll ask him on the other side of the break. Welcome back to the buck stops here. What will happen when the all-party delegation visits the valley? What will come out of it? And is this too little too late? Before we go back to our panel for final comments, a layperson's perspective from Srinagar, Dr. Rauf, joining us this evening, a young person who's been hearing all of the politicians talk. Rauf, if I can ask you your impressions. To my mind, I thought we saw some reasonably significant statements, especially by the Congress president, talking about dealing with the anger of the Kashmiri youth. What do you make of what's happened today?
Barkha, thank you. First of all, there has been a lot of political statements on this debate. Let it come straight from the heart, from a Kashmiri. Well, the language Urdu has said it all. I think when Inqilab Zindabad was said in India, I think everybody understood it. I don't know why they are unable to understand simple Urdu now. We are saying, Hum kya chahte azadi. And it took you 20 years, and now they have come up with a solution, that is that a delegation from Delhi is going to come to meet Kashmiris. I hope that they remember that in 1990 a delegation had come here when the situation was almost same, although it's more serious now, and they had met the people out here and they had told them what they wanted. I don't know why they are unable to see, as somebody has already said on your channel, the elephant is in the room, they are unable to see it.
Okay, let me talk about the elephant in the room. Rauf, I'll come back to you. Let me take this to Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, this is the conundrum. The conundrum is that the framework that Delhi has set, understandably, is the constitution. The BJP says we won't even discuss autonomy, which history, in fact, had made a pact with Jammu and Kashmir on. I'll ask Ravi about that. But to you, how do you tackle this very volatile but raw sentiment of separatism on the streets of Srinagar?
Barkha, we cannot begin to tackle it by first sitting back and lamenting, oh, what a big problem, we can't even start the dialogue, this will happen, that will happen. It is the only way forward is to start in this dialogue process. Now, there will be problems, there will be different views, there will be obstructions, there will be criticism, but that cannot deter us. If after all this it fails, then we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Today, there is a genuine attempt, and remember, very few governments have done this in the way in which we've tried to bring all the parties on board. We are trying to generate a consensus. Now, once we go to Kashmir, we are confident that some solution will arise. But equally, I am a little distressed when I just heard on your television program. I don't think the responsibility lies only with the government. I think everybody has to join this process. Mr. Mirwais should not refer to India as a foreign country, which is almost the way he referred to it. Some of the other people have to, let's say, there will be no effect of what they say. Let's assume that. But they should still say it time and again. They condemn the violence must stop, we must try to join. It's no point not saying it.
Okay.
So I think this is something which everybody else should join the clapping. No one hand can clap.
I will put that to the Mirwais, but Ravi, I want you to comment on what the Mirwais said, that it was the BJP that has actually had much more success in talking to both the Hurriyat Conference and Pakistan. Abhishek may not like my saying this, than the Congress has had. It's an irony of history that when the BJP was in power, we saw much more innovation in foreign policy and an outreach to the Kashmiri people, and successfully at that. And the Mirwais Omar Farooq, whom you condemned, is quoting your former Prime Minister as an example of what he wants from this government.
I think Mirwais, in all fairness, ought to have stated about our transparency and also the firmness with which we eliminated the terrorist operation in Jammu and Kashmir, which made the task easier for Mr. Mirwais and other Hurriyat leaders to talk in a proper atmosphere. I understand his problem, but I will ask Mirwais one thing very clearly. The way he talked about India, it is only the Indian democracy which gives him the chance and opportunity. I regret, Mirwais, in Pakistan, you cannot talk like this, nor even in Pak-occupied Kashmir. And the young boy who talked about this, Barkha, on your program I am appearing a number of times on Kashmir issue. I am very assured to find a number of phone calls from Kashmiri Muslim young men that has been coming to me. And one phone call I would like to remind, I will not reveal his name. He said, Mr. Prasad, I was a stone thrower in the 90s. Now I am a journalist. And I realize, seeing the despicable plight of Kashmiris in Pak-occupied Kashmir, that our destiny lies in India.
Okay.
I think there is a big group like those who are there who need to be talked about. And therefore, I am full of assurance. These kinds of pessimisms have been talked about Kashmir in the last more than 50 years.
Okay.
But I need to tell my brothers and sisters of Kashmir that the real destiny lies only in India.
Let me ask Mirwais Omar Farooq to what you've so emotionally articulated. Mirwais Omar Farooq, the point about Indian democracy giving you that space while you have, in a sense, gone for the Indian state. But to my point and my question that you did not answer, and to Abhishek's point also to you, that you have to meet the government halfway. You have been dubbed the moderate faction of the Hurriyat leader because you have seen to be someone who has been willing to participate in dialogue. Is it also not true, Mirwais Omar Farooq, that the reason that the separatists are not meeting New Delhi halfway is because every time somebody has ventured close to the dialogue table, they have almost had to pay with their lives, as we've seen recently with the attack on Fazl Haq Qureshi? Isn't it a fear of extremist backlash that also keeps people like you away from the visible glare of dialogue, though you have engaged in back-channel talks with the Home Minister?
Well, Barkha, let me make one or two points very clear. You see, the Hurriyat has always stood for meaningful dialogue in terms of resolution of Kashmir issue. But one thing is very clear, we represent a mandate. You know, Hurriyat has a mandate. We represent the aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And those aspirations are very clear. We are not demanding economic packages. We are not demanding autonomy. We are not demanding self-rule. Our goal is right to self-determination. And it was under this garb that we said that let us talk to India, let us talk to Pakistan. Because you have to understand that, see, Kashmir is not an integral part. It's a dispute.
But will
it's a dispute recognized
will you accept this olive branch offered by the Prime Minister today, by the Congress President, by this all-party delegation that's headed your way? Will you give them a cup of tea, you think?
Barkha, Kashmiris are willing to move, 10 steps if India is willing to take one. But the sad part is that you are not even willing to do that. Hurriyat Conference for the past 5 years has been giving you suggestions. We have placed 4 points before you, in which we are asking about these repealing of black laws. Mind it, it's not only AFSPA. It is the Disturbed Areas Act, which gives the CRPF, the police authority. It's the Public Safety Act.
Okay.
It's the issue of release of prisoners. It's the issue of demilitarization. I mean, just explain it to me. Why do you need AFSPA? Because, you are yourself saying, your army generals, your security agencies, that militancy has gone down, violence has gone down, activity has gone down. So if militant violence has gone down, why can't you reach out to the people and you can start demilitarization?
Let me ask the General to answer that question. Mirwais Omar Farooq, let me ask the General. Last comments, General Raghavan, why do we need AFSPA? You said let it not become a tool for political compromise, for political negotiation. But to the more real question, what we have seen in the last 3 months is not related to militant violence. It is not that classic template that we saw in the early 89 to 90s and through till 2000. We have seen a shift in the anatomy of the protest. Why do we need AFSPA? In one line, why do we need it?
Well, why do we need it is because there is a requirement from the political leadership continuously to say that we need it. Now, if they're being told that there is normalcy and it should be drawn back, the army is saying, or the armed forces are saying, that if you pull this out precipitately, suddenly, then the consequences can be very serious in security terms.
But you're saying that the decision is political, the assessment must be political.
It should be political, but what will be the assessment based on? It will be based on the inputs that will come not only from political leadership, who are supposed to have their fingers on the pulse on the people who are throwing stones and burning police stations, etc., but also intelligence agencies, army agencies, etc. It's a totality of a decision which the political leadership must exercise.
And the fact is that there is no consensus. Mehboob Beg, last word to you very, very quickly. As far as I understand the law, the state government, I just have a quick question. The state government is authorized to lift the Disturbed Areas Act. You can lift it, but you don't actually do that. Mehboob Beg, if you can hear me, I'll come to you for a last comment. But Abhishek Singhvi, as we're getting Mehboob Beg up, the differences within the UPA cabinet on Armed Forces Special Powers Act have played out in public. Is that not quite dangerous for the situation we're dealing with?
Not at all, Barkha. I think there is, first of all, absolutely no discussion going on about repeal of the act in the way you use dilution. That requires an act of parliament. I don't think anybody is moving parliament. There is no parliament in November. I don't think there is any consensus on that. The only thing being discussed, and again I repeat, it's a calibrated discussion. There is no decision taken. Inputs from all sides are coming in. Is whether in some areas which are clearly certified, or clearly there is a view that they are not anymore in a very serious state, whether this act can be disapplied for a while. with the reserve power to reapply it.
Okay.
That's about the only thing we discussed. I'm not pronouncing any judgment on it.
But
now I think this is, all these discussions going on with the use word dilution are not clarifying this conceptual confusion.
Well, there are proposed amendments on the table by the Home Ministry for the last year, if I'm not wrong. But Mehboob Beg, very, very quickly, last word to you, sir. What are you expecting from this all-party delegation?
From this all-party delegation, I am expecting that they will see the truth on the ground, and they will see that it's a political issue which has to be addressed politically. And if you remember, there was a time period when both external and internal dimensions of the Kashmir were talked. They were talked to General Musharraf. They had arrived at a conclusion. I think Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, and they were sorting out Kashmir, its external dimensions, even internal dimensions. They had taken everybody on board, all separatists. The one you are talking to just now, even he was on board, only with one exception. I think the time has come. Likewise, internal and external dimensions of Kashmir should be addressed once for all.
All right, so you've now got an elected mainstream party talking about a permanent resolution, in a sense, internally. One thing's for clear, no matter what the differences that we've heard on this panel tonight, when the all-party delegation travels to the valley, travels to the state, it may find that the truth as it seems from the distance of Delhi could alter under the close-up of the Kashmir gaze. We leave it there. Thanks very much, General Raghavan, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Dr. Rauf, Abhishek Singhvi, Mirwais Omar Farooq, Mehboob Beg for joining us on the Buck Stops here this evening. We'll call it a night. See you tomorrow at 10. Good night. Have a great evening.